I want to thank you guys for showing up today. We're fixing to step off on quite a long ruck. Today's going to be hot, so I hope everybody brought some water. Got some other stuff I'll brief before we step off, but I just want to remind y'all, and if anybody's watching on the live stream, how important, I don't know how to put into words how important what it is that you're doing today and all the other days that you do rucks for the fallen and posting, how much it matters right now. We just, last month, we did our virtual ruck, and did not know the timing of that was going to be as crucial as it was to encouraging the officers out on the street. There were people that signed up to do that all over the country, from Hawaii to Kentucky, Massachusetts, even California, Washington, and everywhere in between. I think we had as many as 15 to 20 different states sign up. And I followed their hashtags and saw where some of them were going to the local agencies, bringing them stuff, stopping them out on the street, saying hey, doing different things. So this is working. What you're doing matters. Some people may think, well, I just walked around my track, you know, and then posted it on Strava, but people see it. So whether it's on all the different social media or you're doing it in person, it's making a difference, and people are being encouraged. Right now, something that I'm seeing almost every day on my Facebook, on my social media, is officers that I'm friends with towards the end of their career saying that they're glad they're getting out because of the current atmosphere. They need encouragement. This is hitting hard on a lot of folks. It's affecting, you know, it's discouraging a lot of folks. But what we're doing is making a difference and raising that bar back up. When they're feeling down, this is bringing them back up, and that's what we're out here. We're here to honor the fallen and support those still on watch, and this is working. So, and just a little sign of hope. And I was just kind of, we need to get to reading the names because we have quite a few to read. But I was listening to, there's a guy that does a leadership course for FDL, or for FBI leadership class. They were talking about generational gaps. And I was encouraged to see that we've got a generation coming into the workforce that's willing to take this challenge, because they're leaving high-paying jobs to do other jobs that bring fulfillment. So they're willing to face the challenges because it matters. Whereas some of the other generations prior were in the career for different reasons. So to me, that was a beacon of hope that, you know, after these current generations exit the workforce, it's not just all going to fall apart. Like, we've got people that are, it's in their heart and in their mind and in their soul of how to handle the current atmosphere and the new challenges that are being faced. So, but I'm going to start off. We have Police Officer Patrick Thomas McGovern, New York City Police Department, New York. End of watch, Thursday, May 2nd, 2019. Police Officer Patrick McGovern died as a result of cancer that he developed following his assignment to the search and rescue efforts at the World Trade Center site following the 9/11 terrorist attack. Officer McGovern had served with the New York NYPD for 19 years and is survived by his mother and 2 brothers. On the morning of September 11, 2001, 72 officers from a total of 8 local, state, and federal agencies were killed when terrorist hijackers working for the Al-Qaeda terrorist network headed by Osama bin Laden crashed 4 hijacked planes into the World Trade Center in New York, the Pentagon, Arlington, Virginia, and a field near Shanksville, Pennsylvania. After the impact of the first plane into the World Trade Center's North Tower, putting the safety of others before their own, law enforcement officers, along with fire and EMS personnel, rushed to the burning twin towers of the World Trade Center to aid the victims and lead them to safety. Due to their quick actions, it is estimated that over 25,000 people were saved. As the evacuation continued, the South Tower unexpectedly collapsed as a result of the intense fire caused by the impact. The North Tower collapsed a short time later. 71 law enforcement officers, 343 members of the New York City Fire Department, and over 2,800 civilians were killed in the World Trade Center site. A third hijacked plane crashed into a field in rural Pennsylvania when the passengers attempted to retake control of the plane. One law enforcement officer who was a passenger on the plane was killed in that crash. The fourth hijacked plane was crashed into the Pentagon in Arlington, Virginia, almost killing 200 military and civilian personnel. No law enforcement officers were killed at the Pentagon on 9/11. The terrorist attacks resulted in a declaration of war against the Taliban regime and illegal rulers of Afghanistan, and the Al-Qaeda terrorist network, which also was based in Afghanistan. On September 9th, 2005, all of the public safety officers killed September 11th, 2001 were posthumously awarded the 9/11 Heroes Medal of Valor by President George W. Bush. The contamination in the air at the World Trade Center site caused many rescue personnel to become extremely ill and eventually led to the death of several rescue workers. On May 1st, 2011, members of the United States military conducted a raid on a compound in Pakistan and killed Osama bin Laden. Age 43 to her 19 years.
Officer Richard G. McCoy. United States Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection, Office of Field Operations, U.S. Government. End of watch, May 2nd, 2020. Officer Richard McCoy died after contracting COVID-19 while on duty at Fort Lauderdale, Port Everglades Port of Entry in Florida. Officer McCoy was a U.S. Navy veteran and had served with the Customs and Border Protection, Office of Fields of Operations, and the former Immigration and Naturalization Service for 23 years. He was assigned to the Fort Lauderdale Port Everglades Port of Entry. He is survived by his wife and daughter. In early 2020, thousands of law enforcement officers and other first responders throughout the country contracted COVID-19 during the worldwide pandemic due to the requirements of their job. Many of these first responders died as a result of COVID-19. 60 years old, 23 years, military veteran.
Police Officer Jason Knox, Houston Police Department, Texas. End of watch, Saturday, May 2nd. Police Officer Jason Knox was killed in a helicopter crash in the 17050 block of Imperial Valley Drive at about 2 a.m. He was aboard the MD-369E helicopter as the tactical flight officer. The helicopter had been requested to search the nearby Greens Bayou after police had received unconfirmed reports that two bodies were in the area. The helicopter experienced an issue during the search and crashed into an apartment complex clubhouse. Responding fire department units extricated Officer Knox and the pilot from the wreckage. Officer Knox suffered fatal injuries in the crash, and the pilot suffered severe injuries. Officer Knox had served with the Houston Police Department for 8 years. He is survived by his wife, 2 children, and his parents, age 35 to her 8 years.
Police Officer Michael S. Mosher, Overland Park Police Department, Kansas. End of watch, May 3rd, 2020. Police Officer Michael Mosher was shot and killed while attempting to arrest a hit-and-run suspect. Officer Mosher was off duty, but in his uniform while en route to work when he witnessed the hit-and-run at West 143 Street at Antioch Road. He called dispatchers as he followed the vehicle until it stopped near the intersection of West 123rd Street and Mackey Street. The driver, whose family filed domestic violence charges against him 2 days prior, confronted Officer Mosher with a firearm, leading to a shootout. Officer Mosher and the subject were both killed in the shooting. Officer Mosher had served with the Overland Park Police Department for 14 and a half years. He is survived by his wife and child. Age 37, badge number 917. Tour of duty 14 years, 6 months.
Officer Omar E. Palmer, United States Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection, Office of Field Operations, U.S. Government. End of watch, Monday, May 4th, 2020. Officer Omar Palmer died after contracted COVID-19 after being exposed to an employee at John F. Kennedy International Airport in New York City who had tested positive. His condition worsened and he passed away on May 4th, 2020. Officer Palmer had served with the Customs and Border Protection, Office of Field of Operations for 17 years, who was assigned to the John F. Kennedy International Airport Passenger Operations in Terminal 4. He is survived by his mother. In early 2020, thousands of law enforcement officers and other first responders throughout the country contracted COVID-19 during the worldwide pandemic due to requirements of their job. Many of these first responders died as a result of COVID-19. He was 40 and he served 14 years.
Sergeant Lionel Q. Martinez, Alamo Colleges Police Department, Texas, end of watch Tuesday, May 5th, 2020. Sergeant Lionel Martinez suffered a fatal heart attack while responding to a shooting call on North Main Avenue at about 10 p.m. He was responding to the initial call when he suffered the heart attack. His patrol car then struck a parked car on East Dewey Place near McCullough Avenue. Other responding officers immediately started CPR and he was transported to a local hospital where he died a short time later. Sergeant Martinez has served with the Alamo Colleges District Police Department for 21 years. He was 62 years old, badge 0010, and his tour was 21 years.
Officer Omar E. Palmer, United States Department. Oh, you did?
Scholwinski.
I mixed up the first one too. Sergeant Raymond John Scholwinski, Harris County Sheriff's Office, Texas, end of watch May 6, 2020. Sergeant Raymond Scholwinski died after contracting COVID-19 during a confirmed exposure to another employee at 7900 Will Clayton Parkway in Humble, Texas. Sergeant Scholwinski had served with the Harris County Sheriff's Office for 44 years, and he is survived by his wife and 4 children. In early 2020, thousands of law enforcement officers and other first responders throughout the country contracted COVID-19 during a worldwide pandemic due to requirements of their job. Many of these first responders died as a result of COVID-19. Age 70 to or 44 years.
Corrections Officer Jesse Wayne Bolton, Texas Department of Criminal Justice, Texas, end of watch Friday, May 8, 2020. Corrections Officer Jesse Bolton died after contracting COVID-19 during an outbreak at the Eastern Unit in Lovelady, Texas. Officer Bolton had served with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for 12 years. He is survived by his wife and stepdaughter. In early 2020, thousands of law enforcement officers and other first responders throughout the country contracted COVID-19 during the worldwide pandemic due to the requirements of their job. Many of these first responders died as a result of COVID-19. He was 63 and served 12 years.
Corrections Officer V. Maria Mendez, Texas Department of Criminal Justice, Texas, end of watch Saturday, May 9th. Corrections Officer V. Maria Mendez died after contracting COVID-19 in a presumed exposure during an outbreak in the wine unit in Huntsville, Texas. Officer Mendez had served with the Texas Department of Criminal Justice for 10 years. She is survived by her 4 children, age 59 to or 10 years.
Correctional Officer Antoine J. Jones, Cook County Sheriff's Office, Department of Corrections, Illinois, end of watch Sunday, May 10th. Corrections Officer Antoine Jones died after contracting COVID-19 during an outbreak among inmates and correctional staff at the Cook County Jail at 2650 South California Avenue in Chicago. Officer Jones had served with the Cook County Sheriff's Office, Department of Corrections for 18 years. He is survived by his wife and 5 children, age 51 to or 18 years.
Corrections Supervisor 1 George Bernie Robare for the Kansas Department of Corrections, Kansas. His end of watch was Monday, May 11th, 2020. George Bernie Robare was the Corrections Supervisor 1. He died after contracting COVID-19 during an outbreak amongst employees and inmates at the Lansing Correctional Facility. Supervisor Robare had served with the Kansas Department of Corrections for 36 years. He is survived by his wife and daughter. In early 2020, thousands of law enforcement officers and other first responders throughout the country contracted COVID-19 during the worldwide pandemic due to requirements of their job. Many of these first responders died as a result of COVID-19. He was 61. He had a tour of 36 years.
Sergeant Charles Rob Roberts III, Glenridge Police Department, New Jersey, end of watch Monday, May 11th. Sergeant Rob Roberts died after contracting COVID-19 during an outbreak with the city government buildings and police headquarters. Sergeant Roberts had served with the Glenridge Police Department for 20 years and was posthumously promoted to the rank of sergeant. He is survived by his wife and 3 children. He was 45 years old. His tour was 20 years and his badge 69.
Corrections Supervisor 1 Fella A. Adebiyi, Kansas Department of Corrections, Kansas, end of watch Tuesday, May 12th, 2020. Corrections Supervisor 1 fella died after contracting COVID-19 during an outbreak amongst employees and inmates at the Lansing Correctional Facility. Supervisor fella had served with the Kansas Department of Corrections for 20 years. In early 2020, thousands of law enforcement officers and other first responders throughout the country contracted COVID-19 during the worldwide pandemic to requirements of their job. Many of these first responders died as a result of COVID-19. Tour 20 years.
Sergeant Jose García-Vázquez, Puerto Rico Police Department, Puerto Rico. End of watch Friday, May 15, 2020. Sergeant Jose García-Vázquez died after contracting COVID-19 while on duty during an outbreak in the district police station in Yacu, Puerto Rico. Sergeant García-Vázquez had served with the Puerto Rico Police Department for 31 years and was assigned to the Yacu district. He is survived by his wife, who serves as a lieutenant with the agency. In early 2020, thousands of law enforcement officers and other first responders throughout the country contracted COVID-19 during the worldwide pandemic due to the requirements of their job. Many of these first responders died as a result of COVID-19. He's 51 years old and served 31 years.
Officer Ching Kok United States Department of Homeland Security, Customs and Border Protection, Office of Field Operations. End of watch Saturday, May 16th. Officer C.K. Yen died after contracting COVID-19 while on duty at the International Mail Facility at JFK International Airport in New York City, New York. Officer Yen had served with the United States Customs and Border Protection Office of Field Operations for 13 years. He is survived by his wife and 4 children, age 54, 2 or 13 years.
Corrections Officer Berisford Anthony Morris, Washington State Department of Corrections. End of watch May 17th, 2020. Corrections Officer Berisford Morris died after contracting COVID-19 through a confirmed exposure to an inmate during an outbreak at the Morse Correctional Complex's minimum security unit. Officer Morris had served with the Washington State Department of Corrections for 17 years. He was 65 years old.
Deputy Sheriff Wyatt Mazer with the Bonneville County Sheriff's Office, Idaho. End of watch Monday, May 18, 2020. Deputy Sheriff Wyatt Mazer was struck and killed by a patrol car at the intersection of Bone Road and 9th Road South at 5:20 a.m. He had initially responded to a single vehicle rollover crash, but when he arrived, he encountered a woman in mental crisis walking away from the crash carrying a machete. Deputy Mazer and another responding deputy attempted to talk to her for several minutes as she continued to disobey commands as she walked in the roadway. A third deputy who was responding to the scene came upon the group on the dark roadway and inadvertently struck Deputy Mazer. Deputy Mazer was transported to Eastern Idaho Regional Medical Center where he succumbed to his injuries. The woman was taken into custody at the scene. Deputy Mazer was a U.S. Air Force veteran and had served with the Bonneville County Sheriff's Office for 13 months. He is survived by his wife, daughter, mother, and stepfather, father and stepmother, siblings, and grandparents. He was 23 and his tour was 1 year and 1 month.
Trooper George Baker, Louisiana State Police, Louisiana. End of watch Sunday, May 24th, 2020. Trooper George Baker succumbed to injuries sustained on May 20th, 2020 when he was struck by a Hammond patrol car while removing stop sticks from the roadway during a vehicle pursuit. The pursuit started when officers from the Hammond Police Department attempted to stop a suspicious vehicle. Trooper Baker and another trooper successfully deployed stop sticks on Wardline Road near the intersection with Kate Street, causing the vehicle to hit them. As the troopers attempted to remove the stop sticks from the roadway, they were inadvertently struck by a responding Hammond patrol car. Both occupants in the fleeing vehicle were arrested a short time later. Both troopers were transported to a local hospital where Trooper Baker succumbed to his injuries on May 24th, 2020. Trooper Baker's organs were donated upon his death. The second trooper suffered non-life-threatening injuries. Trooper Baker was a U.S. Marine Corps veteran and had served with the Louisiana State Police for 3 years. He had previously served with the Greensburg Police Department for 4 years and the St. Helena Parish Sheriff's Office for 3 years. He is survived by his wife, daughter, parents, and sisters. He was 33 years old. His tour was 10 years as a military veteran.
Trooper First Class Eugene Kenneth Barron Jr., Connecticut State Police, Connecticut, end of watch May 25th, 2020. Trooper First Class Eugene Barron died as a result of cancer contracted while assisting with rescue and recovery efforts at the World Trade Center site following the terrorist attacks on September 11, 2001. Trooper Barron had served with the Connecticut State Police for 18 years prior to medically retiring. He is survived by 3 children, parents, 2 sisters, his girlfriend, and her 2 children, age 56 to her 18 years.
Police Officer Cody Holte, Grand Forks Police Department, North Dakota, end of watch Wednesday, May 27, 2020. Police Officer Cody Holte was shot and killed after responding to assist deputies from the Grand Forks County Sheriff's Office who were fired upon as they served an eviction notice at an apartment at 2627 South 17th Street. When deputies made contact with the subject, he fled into the bedroom and began firing at them with a semi-automatic rifle. Officer Holte and another officer from the Grand Forks Police Department responded to the deputies' call for assistance. When they arrived, the suspect again opened fire, killing Officer Holte and wounding one of the deputies. Officer returned fire and wounded the subject. A woman inside of the apartment was found deceased from a gunshot wound. The subject was arrested at the scene and subsequently charged with 2 counts of murder. Officer Holte was a member of the North Dakota National Guard and had served with the Grand Forks Police Department for 3 years. Assigned to the Uniform Patrol Bureau, Officer Holte was a member of the Grand Forks Police Department's Honor Guard and was a member of the Northeast Regional Water Rescue Team. He is survived by his wife, 10-month-old son, a twin brother. His brother also serves as a police officer in North Dakota. He's 29 years old, served for 3 years and 3 months, badge number 639. He was a military vet.
Police Officer Nathan James Lyday, Ogden Police Department, Utah. End of watch Thursday, May 28th. Police Officer Nate Lyday was shot and killed while responding to a domestic disturbance call at a home in the 300 block of Jackson Avenue. A woman had called 911 and reported that a male subject was threatening to kill her. When Officer Lyday and the other officers arrived at the home, was located on the front porch. He was uncooperative with officers before running inside the home. As officers approached the front door, he opened fire, shooting through the door and fatally wounding Officer Lyday. A Utah adult probation and parole agent was also struck and suffered non-life-threatening wounds. Members of the Ogden Metro SWAT team located the subject deceased inside the home a short time later. Officer Lyday had served with the Ogden Police Department for only 15 months. He is survived by his wife, age 24, to her 1 year, 3 months.
Detective John D. Songy, Rutland Police Department, Massachusetts. End of watch Friday, May 29th, 2020. Detective John Songy died after contracting COVID-19 as a result of the presumed exposure while on duty. Detective Songy had served with Rutland Police Department for 8 years and had previously served with the Oakham Police Department for 6 years. He is survived by his wife, daughter, and 2 stepchildren. 48 years old, badge number 205.
Deputy Constable Caleb Rule, Fort Bend County Constable's Office, Precinct 4, Texas. End of watch Friday, May 29, 2020. Deputy Constable Caleb Rule was inadvertently shot and killed by a Fort Bend County Sheriff's Office while responding to a suspicious person call in the 3900 block of Chestnut Bend in Sienna Plantation at 1:40 a.m. The citizen had reported seeing a man running from a home in the area. Deputy Constable Rule responded to the scene along with 3 sheriff's deputies and located a home with an open door. Deputy Constable Rule was clearing the home with the sheriff's deputies when he was mistaken for a suspect inside of the home. Deputy Constable Rule was struck in the chest in an area not protected by his vest. He was transported to a local hospital where he succumbed to his wounds. Deputy Constable Rule had served with the Fort Bend County Constable's Office, Precinct 4 for 9 months and had previously served with the Missouri City Police Department for 14 years. He is survived by his wife and 4 children. He is 37 years old and had a tour of 15 years.
Police Officer Waldis J. Johnson, Detroit Police Department, Michigan. End of watch Sunday, May 31st, 2020. Waldis J. Johnson succumbed to a gunshot wound sustained on April 30th, 2017 while responding to a domestic violence call at 10075 Joy Road. He and another officer approached a common front door to the apartment complex, which was locked. After several minutes of knocking on the door, a man unrelated to the call for service came downstairs, opened the door, and pointed a semi-automatic handgun at Officer Johnson. Officer Johnson immediately grabbed the firearm and began to struggle with the subject. Officer Johnson let go of the firearm to draw his service weapon. They both fired simultaneously. Officer Johnson was struck once in the head, and the subject was struck twice by Officer Johnson. The other officer also returned fire before pulling Officer Johnson from the entryway. The subject died at the scene. Officer Johnson suffered a traumatic brain injury and remained in a rehabilitation facility until his death. Officer Johnson has served with the Detroit Police Department for 17 years. He is survived by his wife, daughter, and 2 sons. The officer who pulled him to safety, Police Officer Darren Weathers, was killed in the line of duty in a vehicle crash on February 13, 2018. He was 48 years old, his tour was 17 years, and his badge was 2591.
Thank you guys for coming